Ser Hugh says that every hurt is a lesson, and every lesson makes you better. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners, a full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. I'm Zach, chilling here, sitting with me, because Stoop Kid never leaves his stoop, is my brother Nate.
I leave my stoop sometimes.
Well, I didn't necessarily say you were a Stoop Kid.
I guess you got
so.
What's up, everybody? It's Nate here from Brotherhood Without Manners. I'm just going to sneak in and tell you really quick about this sweet app called Podcoin. If you listen to podcasts at all, especially Brotherhood Without Manners, all you have to do is download this app, download our podcast, put in the code Brotherhood, and you will get 300 coins. And you can spend those coins on all sorts of cool stuff. Gift cards, donating to charity, whatever. So give it a try. Let us know if you like it. We really enjoy using it for our podcast listening. You can get free stuff, so why not take advantage of something you already do? Anyway, back to the episode.
And it feels like it's been a while since we've been...
It has been a while since
in
we've
the
been behind the
recording booth.
mic, technically. We had a bunch of banked episodes, and we felt ill.
Yeah.
And so if you can hear that, our bad, but... You know, we wanted to make sure we keep up to our schedule.
Truth.
So,
We've both been a little under the weather.
which is unfortunate, because...
Which, I've never described myself as being over the weather, so...
But you're right at the weather, right?
Sure.
So usually...
Sounds like you need to take some more medicine.
I could use more medicine.
Chill out, because... Chill out.
All right.
But anyway...
Last episode...
Last time
was
Brotherhood Without Manners.
a double chapter episode.
It was.
That was cool.
Mother-daughter.
We should start implementing like those voiceovers and shit like that. Last time on Brotherhood Without Manners. It'd be fucking sick. Get
Are
the
you
guy
gonna
from.
do it?
I could do it.
I don't think you could.
Maybe. So we read Cat 5 and Sansa something last time.
Sansa something. What was that? Sansa 3, 2.
Sansa. What? Do I have the right book here? I guess so.
Sansa 2. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Sansa 2. Man,
See,
she's
yeah.
only had 2 chapters.
That's why I was so surprised.
And yeah, Catelyn made her way to an inn, making her way back north with Sir Roderick, and ended up at the crossroads, where many things happen. And she took Tyrion, and we know that has a lot of implications, both later on in this book and later on in the series as a whole. So it was sort of a major moment for Catelyn and Tyrion.
Yeah.
And then we went with Sansa, and Sansa was just enjoying the first day of the tournament and girling about until the day turned very sour suddenly when...
At the end of the feast,
Yeah,
the king went a little fucking
the
nuts.
king went a little crazy, then Joffrey went a little crazy, and then she got a sweet escort by the Hound, who is crazy. And
It was just crazy.
it was pretty crazy. Everybody's
So,
crazy in King's Landing.
This episode, we are coming at you with Ned 7.
And this was a pretty lengthy chapter. There's a lot that happens in this chapter, and I loved it. So it begins with Sir Barristan Selmy
Bury the bold.
and Ned Stark looking down at the body in the back of the cart of the squire who was killed earlier in the tournament in our Sansa chapter. And Barristan Selmy is saying that he stood vigil himself last night, and that the squire had no one else, apparently a mother in the Vale, but apparently she doesn't care that much. So Ned notices that the young knight appears to be sleeping, and it's just very sad. Ned's being very Ned about it.
Yeah, he's thinking it's all his fault.
Youth
and he's
lost, and wonders if it was for his sake, yeah. And he thinks that he was, interestingly enough, slain by a Lannister bannerman before Ned had the chance to speak to him, being that this was Jon Arryn's squire for 4 years, we find out. And Robert had knighted him right before riding north.
Yeah, to
Supposedly, in Jon's memory, is why he was knighted.
I bet he was pushed towards that from, Cersei and the Lannisters. You should knight this. Or even Littlefinger, whispering in that ear there.
Yeah. It said that Hugh had wanted it desperately, but Sir Barristan didn't think he was quite ready.
Yeah, Barry says that nice little line. He fears he was not prepared.
Ned's feeling pretty tired at this point. Life has been pretty rough the last couple of months, so he just feels tired beyond his years, and he says that none of us is ever ready.
Barry's like, for knighthood?
And
What?
Ned, getting all stark and grim, says, for death.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming. And yeah, it's just Ned is feeling to blame because he's not finding answers quick enough. He wasn't able to talk to this kid. Was this kid killed because Ned might have an interest in talking to him? And Ned's just pinning it all on himself and adding more worries than really he should be.
He sends him off. He tells the Silent Sisters to take his armor to his mother somewhere in like the Vale or some shit, wherever the river lands, wherever that was.
Mm-hmm.
And they take him away. And
he just reflects bitterly that when the boy's mother asks why her son was killed, the answer will be that he had the honor of fighting for the king's hand at Ard Stark, and Ned just reflects on that bitterly, that this whole tournament was sort of stupid and he never wanted it, and that this was needless. War should not be a game. And those, I think, are just some extremely foreboding and important words to have this early on. War is not a game, and yet we're playing the Game of Thrones, and it's this brilliant. I think that's Martin just sort of tapping his nose at us.
And so, in an attempt to at least assist, he tells Barry that he's gonna pay for the armor. Don't worry, like, don't send a bill to the fucking...
I was thinking real quick, before you do go forward, that in honor of our not so silent sister write-ins, I really liked the description of the Silent Sisters that Ned has take the body away, so I figured I'd read that in honor of our friends that write into us.
That's Afton and Brandy.
Yes.
The not-so-silent sisters.
So it says that the Silent Sisters prepare men for the grave, and it is ill fortune to look upon the face of death. So they come out shrouded in gray, and their entire face is hidden, except for the eyes. And I just think that that's interesting. You're not supposed to look on the face of death. So, Afton, Brandy, we fear you, we respect you, and we thank you for your opinions. But Selmy mentions that, he might not have finished paying for the armor, to which Ned says that he paid yesterday, my lord, and he paid dearly. Pa-bing, pa-bing, pa-bam.
All right, Ned.
With death.
Get it.
Winter is coming.
They started walking through the camps, where everybody's all situated, all the knights, and so
because the turn is still on. It's still party central.
Yeah, who gives a shit that one little, newly knighted knight is dead. And so we get a lot of names chucked at us.
Yeah, the shields with the different heralds.
Just to pop some of them off real quick, we see House Seaguard, Bryce, Karen, the Red Wines, tons more. Maybe you wrote some more down if I didn't.
I did not write any down.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no.
And so finally, after walking through the encampment, they make their way to the Kingsguard tent.
Well, as they're walking, Selmy says to Ned that the king means to fight in the melee today. And Ned says, yeah. And then Ned thinks that Jory had actually woken him up last night to inform him that the king was thinking of fighting in the melee. Because even Jory knows that it's going to be fucking trouble for Ned at this point. And Barristan looks troubled at this and says that they say night's beauty fades at dawn, and the children of wine are oft disowned in the morning light.
Yeah, so basically he's hoping that Robert forgot that
it was a drunken boast. It was he was in his cups. And
Ned knows better.
Ned knows much better and says that Robert would remember the drunken word and would feel even more so compelled
he won't back down.
And he would never back down from that. And so they come upon the largest and the grandest pavilion, and it's the king's, and it's by the water, and it's wreathed in these wisps of gray, which I just thought was a really, it's so clearly, it's so vividly painted. I can see it perfectly. Just this sweet, tournament pavilion, for the king, by the river, in the morning with all the mist, and it's dope. And they enter. And Ned hopes that he would find Robert still sleeping, still drunk, still sleeping it off. But
nope.
No such luck. Robert's got a beer horn, and he's chugging from it, and he's yelling at two squires who are trying to help him into his armor. One is damn near close to tears and is saying that it's too small, it won't go. And this is when Robert notices that.
And he's just starts going off on these squires.
Yeah.
Ned, these little shits are fucking dumb.
Look at these oafs. They're worse than useless. And it says that Ned needs only a glance to know what the issue is here. And Ned says that the boys are not at fault. You're too fat for your armor, Robert. And Robert takes a swig, looks, laughs, and then he turns on the squires and says, "You heard the hand. Go find Aaron Santagar. We get him again." Yes. Remember when we first got the mention? We were like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
Santagar?
We got his second name reference.
because he's the sword master, master of arms.
And tell him I need the breastplate stretcher. So the boys are tripping over each other in their haste to comply with the king's orders. And once they're gone, Robert just sits down in a chair.
Yeah, so Ned was also thinking there about how half of those squires are little Lannisters, little Lancel, and so he's very aware that Robert is at all times surrounded by Lannisters.
Yeah, Ned picks up on that. Robert can't control himself. He's roaring with laughter. This is sort of when, like, to the Unsullied that haven't read, that this is sort of the in-joke, because Selmy starts chuckling, and even Ned manages a smile that the breastplate stretcher isn't fucking a real thing, and Robert's just Robert. But, again, Ned fixates, just jumps right back to the two squires and the Lannisters. So he asks Robert, "Those boys Lannisters?" And Robert nods and laughs. And he says that they're cousins, and he's not sure from where, from some lord or another, but he says, "My life comes from a very large family, Ned." And Ned thinks a very ambitious family. And Ned's not dumb. He sees what's happening, but he's completely missing the mark. So I always pity him because he feels like he's starting to get a lead. And then
So he starts to bring up the fight the night before with Cersei and Robert. And that leads Robert into mentioning Lyanna.
Yeah, because he says that the woman tried to forbid me to fight. Your sister never would have wronged me like that. And as soon as I read that line in this reread, it's immediately like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah,
like,
who the fuck do
you don't know.
And that's it. Like, Ned's probably sitting there going, well, first of all, Lyanna might have been a little wild, but she wasn't stupid. She would have forbidden you from fighting. And if you argued the way you did last night, she'd have knocked you on your ass.
Yeah.
Like,
Ned straight up says, you never knew Lyanna as I did, Robert. You saw her beauty, but not the iron underneath. She would have told you that you have no business in the melee. And I think that is Ned getting as prickly about the situation because of the actual situation with the R+L=J thing, that he doesn't want to get too into it, but that's him getting a little pissed off, saying like, yeah, you didn't know my sister like I did, and she would say you're being fucking stupid. And so King Robert says that you're a sour man, Stark. Like, you may be content with not fighting anymore, but my juices are still flowing, and I'm gonna let them flow. And this is when
Selmy speaks up.
Selmy speaks up and just applies some logic to the situation and says, "Who is gonna dare to strike you at all in any of these tournament games?" And Robert is fucking flabbergasted.
Starts protesting about this hardcore. He doesn't think it's making any sense. And Ned's like, every man that fights against you is going to let you win.
Yeah. No one is going to risk your displeasure by hurting you in the tournament. And
so, Robert threatens to kill Selmy here.
Yeah, he's so angry that he can't speak because he doesn't believe, like, oh, they would let me win. That's cowardly. He just isn't getting it. He's refusing to get it. And so, he grabs a breastplate from the ground and he throws it at Selmy, who dodges it, and he tells him, "Get out of here. Get out before I kill you."
Selmy would fuck you up.
I mean, even now he could cut through Robert as much as Robert eats cake. So, like, let's all settle down. Like, I've never paid attention to that line before, but he threatens to kill Selmy, and I am not okay with that business.
No, that's not
so
right.
Selmy leaves quickly, and Ned starts to follow. And I think even at this point, like, I think Selmy obviously knows Selmy could destroy Robert.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's an honorable Kingsguard.
And
though.
he's gonna.
Wouldn't.
I mean, back in his day, Robert versus Barristan Selmy would have been a good fight.
Well, sure,
but
yeah.
now, like...
Yeah, no, Robert's got nothing on him.
And so Ned turns to leave with Selmy, but Robert tells him, not you, Ned. And he thrusts a horn of beer at him and tells him to drink. Your king commands it. Blah, 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 blah. So Ned takes the horn and drinks.
And then he gets some real talk going, and he basically starts talking about his love for Jon Arryn and how he's feeling dead on the Iron Throne. Just, it's not what he wanted it. How cold Cersei is. He starts talking. He even finally apologizes for killing Lady, the direwolf.
Yeah, I really like it because at this point, there's a point where Ned starts to sort of argue, and Robert tells him, I said drink, damn you, not argue with me. You made me the king, so at least listen when I talk, damn you. And it, like, to me, this is Robert being the most real, where he's just unloading all
Well,
of
that's
this
it, because
shit.
he even at the end there says, you know, he would stake his life on the fact that Joffrey was lying. Mm-hmm. He knew it, but, like, it's his son. He's the king. He has Cersei there, and he just felt all those pressures.
Yeah, he says a lot of things. He had never wished to marry after Lyanna died, but he had to. Cersei was the good match, and it binds Tywin to her. Just a lot of interesting parts about Robert come out here.
Yeah, and then he really says, how could he possibly make a monster child like Joffrey? And Ned tries to defend it and says, you know, you were crazy at that age too. And he's like, no, I was a little wild. This kid's a fucking sadist, man.
Yeah.
Like he's
Robert, like he prefaces that with an interesting, because he says, here's a secret. I've often dreamed of taking ship for the free cities, just me and my sword, and just going and whoring and warring, and I'm gonna spend my days as a sellsword out in the free cities. And he says, you know what stops me is the thought of Joffrey on the Iron Throne with Cersei behind him whispering in his ear. So Robert's very aware of what's happening, even being unaware of it.
He says that he could deal with wild, but what Joffrey is something else. Mm-hmm. And he says it to Ned, how Ned was talking about Lyanna. You don't know him as I do.
Yeah.
This kid is twisted.
But Robert stands up and he slaps Ned on the back and he says, things will be different, we'll make it different, we'll make this a reign to sing of, and damn the Lannisters to the seven hells. It's sort of the boisterous King Robert coming back.
Yeah.
And
because then talk turns to the tournament.
Yeah, he mentions the tournament and Sir Loras and how Renly has been mentioning a sister, a maid, lovely as the dawn. And then we kind of get the scene break here where they broke their fast by the river's edge. So they had a nice big breakfast, and this is where Robert really becomes Robert again. He's retelling an old story from when they were kids, being fostered with Jon Arryn, of a food fight, and how much fun it was, and Robert's getting into it and laughing boisterously like Ned hasn't seen him do in a long time.
Yeah, he even says that it's one of the best mornings he's had.
And that this is the Robert he knew and loved, and this is the man who, if he could find the proof, this is the man who would listen. And then Cersei would fall, and Jaime would fall, and God's help him if Tywin fucking rode out to meet Robert, Robert would smash him like he did Rhaegar. Like, this is the Robert Ned needs. And Ned can see it all playing out so clearly. And then he walks with the king to the jousting field, but he had promised to watch the final tilts with Sansa that morning. And because Septa Mordane was ill, as we know, Septa Mordane was passed the fuck out. So she called in sick to work.
So Ned walks Robert to the king's box where he notices that Cersei is not there.
Yeah, nah, she ain't. Fuck you, Robert. She's done with his shit today.
Yeah, she's not dealing. And so then Ned goes to Sansa.
Yeah, and he finds her, but she's so engrossed already in what's happening that she hardly notices him.
Yeah, because she's watching the very first joust of the day, which just so happens to be...
Sandor Clegane is the first rider to come riding out. Bum, 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 bum.
And she just, the night before shared a drunken night with... surprise ending with the Hound.
Yeah, it's her guest escort.
Yes.
And then... in the other corner, we have Sir Jaime Lannister riding out, glittering from head to heel. Even his lance is fashioned from golden wood of the Summer Isles. Fancy pants.
Yeah, so...
And Littlefinger calls out loudly, 100 gold dragons on the Kingslayer. And so Renly shouts back, done! The Hound has a hungry look this morning.
Do you think this is a normal thing for Littlefinger, or do you think he's trying to sell that he would bet for Jaime Lannister, and that's why he lost the just kind of as a subtle.
That's actually a really good question. Maybe a little of both.
Just because
I feel like
Ned there, he waited till Ned walks up and sits down, and then calls out for this bet on Jaime Lannister, almost to show that he supports Jaime going against the Big Hound, that is actually really interesting because I could see that like Littlefinger betting at each of the tournaments, but I feel like each bet is aided to aid him, like in a Littlefinger way. So yeah, I could see it being like, oh, Ned Stark sat down. I told his wife that I won the dagger by betting on Jaime Lannister, and then I lost the dagger. And when Tyrion would have bet on Jaime, and so it almost shows that he does support Jaime.
Yeah, and Littlefinger shoots back at Renly as he says that the Hound has a hungry look. He says even a hungry dogs know better than to bite the hand that feeds them, saying the Hound serves, essentially, the Lannisters, so he really isn't going to fuck with Jaime Lannister. And
they go through the first little tilt there.
Yeah,
and
the Hound...
Jaime hits the Hound, actually.
Hound and Jaime do their thing. Ned would have loved nothing to see them both lose, but Sansa's loving it. And, the Hound is knocked aside. Jaime lands the first hit. Dun-da-da-da. Gotta switch my page here.
And then the next tilt goes, and the Hound blasts Jaime Lannister off his fucking horse. Just boom, done.
Yeah, Jaime ends up in the dirt, golden and dented, and probably in pain.
And Sansa jumps up all excited and she says she just knew the Hound would win. And she has this strange new, and I don't know if Ned actually notices it, but through his eyes we can kind of see that she definitely has this newfound respect for the Hound, this new adoration for him.
So I really, and this part right here is really why I was super into this scene. I love just the people shouting back and forth, the Littlefinger Renly, and because this is the point where Renly says,
I have this mark too.
That the imp is not here with us. I should have won twice as much.
Yes.
Which is telling us
exactly. So I marked
Tyrion was here, he would have bet on Jaime.
And he always usually does.
That's exactly what it's saying there. Is that if Tyrion was here, he would have bet on Jaime.
And then
that's what he does.
Quickly it gets turned again, because that's it. That's why I was mentioning Sansa is saying she knew he would win, and that sparked Littlefinger to be like, well, if you knew who would win, next time tell me, so that way I can bet on that person. And that's when Renly speaks up, and well, Tyrion would have bet on Jaime too.
Yeah.
And that completely contradicts what Littlefinger told Ned just a few days before.
Told Catelyn as well.
And so, just like that, it switches back to Jaime and starts focusing on Jaime again. And
poor Jaime's back on his feet. His lion helmet is dented and twisted, and now he can't get it off.
So he's escorted to a blacksmith.
Crowd starts kind of quietly laughing.
And Robert is fucking dying.
Robert is losing his shit.
He thinks this is the funniest shit ever.
So they lead Jaime off to the blacksmith to get the helmet off, and then by then the mountain is in his possession, and it says that he was the biggest man Eddard Stark had ever seen, with massive shoulders and arms as thick as the trunks of small trees. He's a huge dude.
Yeah, and then it kind of goes into who he is and where he comes from.
He did not, unlike the Hound, he did not live at court, and he seldom left his own lands except for wars or tourneys. He was with Lord Tywin when King's Landing fell. He was 17 and newly knighted. Some say he had been the one to dash the skull of the infant prince Aegon Targaryen against the wall.
Fagon.
And they whispered that he raped the mother, the Dornish princess Elia Martell. You raped her! You murdered her!
And
before
so
killing her.
Ned barely knows Sir Gregor, but he did fight in the same battle in the Greyjoy Rebellion.
Yeah.
And there were rumors that were just not good.
Yeah, he's soon to be married a third time because the other
who knows what happened to the other two.
There were dark things said about the deaths of his first two wives. And it said that he had a sister who died under queer circumstances as well. And then, of course, there was the fire that disfigured his brother, the hunting accident that killed their father. And Gregor, of course, inherited the keep, the gold, the family estates. So, a lot of sketchy shit around the mountain here. And the day that Gregor inherited all that was the same day Sandor left to begin taking up his service with the Lannisters. So, the mountain is at one end, and then the Knight of Flowers rides in, and Sansa is just all over this shit.
Yeah, so is the rest of the audience. Too,
Oh yeah,
'cause they say
everybody
there's
is.
an
He
audible
rides
gasp.
out. His armor's polished. It's fucking great.
He is beautiful.
And Sir Gregor's horse catches Loras's courser's scent and starts reacting to it, and that's the first sort of hint that
Yeah, that's there's
something's
something
up.
amiss.
So Sansa grabs Ned's arm and says, "Don't let Sir Gregor hurt him." And Ned notices that she is wearing the rose Loras had given her the previous day in her hair. And so he tells her that tourney lances are meant to splinter on impact, that way no one is hurt. But in his head, he's thinking of Ser Hugh of the Vale, dead in the back of the cart.
Yeah. So we also get a second little hint here that, for some reason, the mountain is having a little bit of a hard time controlling his horse at the moment and
He's
getting him to line
kicking
up.
it savagely, just trying to get it in control, and it rears up and almost throws him. But they take up their positions.
But
and
before they actually can get ready, his horse just fucking books it towards
yeah,
Loras.
it just starts going, and he's struggling to hold it into the charge, but Loras takes off as well, and they go, and they collide, and the mountain is knocked down.
Yeah, Loras just fucking takes him right
And the
down.
mountain is so big that he takes the horse down with him, and they go down in a tangle of flesh and steel. And Ned hears the applause, the cheers, the whistles, the shocked gasps, the excited murmurings, and over it all, the rasping laughter of the hound, which I love.
Yeah.
The hound is fucking loving it that Sir Gregor just got knocked on his ass by the Knight of the Flowers, of all people. So Sir Loras reigns up at the end of the lists, and he's glistening in the sun, and the commoners are just losing their shit for him. And in the field, Sir Gregor begins to rise. It says rises, boiling to his feet. And he wrenches off his helmet, slams it to the ground, and his face was dark with fury. And he shouts for his sword.
Yeah, he does. Yo, now he has to have a big squire, because I just imagine his sword is fucking huge.
So yeah, he shouts to his squire for his sword. The boy runs it to him, and by then, the horse is back on its feet. And I have the quote here. It says, Sir Gregor killed the horse with a single blow of such ferocity that it severed the animal's neck. Cheers turned to shrieks in a heartbeat, and the horse claps to its knees, its lifeblood pumping out on the ground. Yuck.
Got him.
Happy tournament day, everyone.
And then he doesn't stop there. He immediately starts heading towards Loras Tyrell.
Yeah.
He's fucking pissed. He knocks him straight out of his fucking
This,
saddle.
I love reading this because it almost, to me, it, goes into, bullet time where it's just Ned starts yelling, stop him.
Yeah.
Ned sees what's happening here. Stop it. But it's lost in the shouts. Sansa's crying. Everybody's starting to freak out. Loras is calling for a sword, and Gregor knocks the squire aside and is grabbing for the reins of Loras's horse.
Yeah, and so then the mountain just goes in for this killing blow. And I just pictured that Loras is down on the ground scrabbling, trying to get away, and the mountain's just coming down with this fucking sword on him.
Yeah.
And at the last,
Well, Sir Gregor hits him when he's in his horse. He hits him with a two-handed blow that hits him in the chest, knocks him out of the saddle. And so the horse takes off, and that's when he raises it for the killing blow. And Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's savage.
At the last possible second, the hound comes fucking sliding in on his knees, fucking stopping the blade.
Yeah, a steel-clad hand grabs him and wrenches him away. Leave him be! And the mountain turns, bringing his sword and his fury with it. So the cut that was going for Loras turns, and the hound as the mountain turns, the hound meets it and turns it away. And they fight for a while. The mountain is definitely trying to kill, but not once did Sander cut at his brother's unprotected face.
Ned makes a note of
Yeah.
that the hound was actually there trying to murder this fucker.
But it says that the king's voice put an end to it, and Robert did have a good battlefield voice, as was learned on the Trident, and he says, "Stop this madness in the name of your king."
And I think this is for anybody who has come from the show. This was really well done in the show, where when Robert yells, the hound drops to his knees. Gregor has another attack go right over his head, and that's
it's
that.
sweet. Gregor drops his sword, and he's glaring at Robert, and then he strides off, shoving past Selmy. Poor Selmy, man.
Yeah,
He's just
man.
getting fucking... But Robert says to let him go, and as quick as that, it's over. Everybody starts milling about. Sansa asks if the Hound is champion now, and Ned says no, but it actually is very quickly proven wrong as Loras walks back out over to the Hound.
Well, yeah, because they were supposed to fight now, Loras and the Hound, and Loras grants the Hound the day.
I owe you my life. The day is yours, sir. And making a big show of it, as Loras would. But, of course, this is when we get the Hound, the typical Houndism. I'm no sir. But he takes the victory and the purse, and Ned says, for perhaps the first time, the love of the commoners who cheer him as he leaves because he saved Sir Loras. And it was great. It was like a song. And so Ned and Sansa are heading to the archery field with Littlefinger and Renly and some of the others sort of.
Yeah, and they're just kind of chit-chatting. And so that's when Littlefinger brings out to the attention, if you weren't following that, Loras's horse was in heat, and he knew that would stir up the Mountain's horse, and that's what caused the whole shit to go down.
Yeah, Littlefinger says this is seemingly amused, but Barristan is not amused.
There are no honor in tricks.
Nope.
Horse shit.
But Renly says small honor in 20,000 gold pieces, so pa.
Yeah.
And it was so that afternoon there was an unheralded commoner from the Dornish marshes that won the archery tournament.
So now this man's name
drumroll please, is Anguy.
And he is going to be, we are a full spoiler reread podcast.
Duh.
Anguy is part of the Brotherhood Without Banners.
Yeah, we'll be running into Anguy
and
quite a bit later in some other chapters.
Shit.
And yeah, it's good stuff. So I was excited to see.
I thought it was very cool.
And he also outshot Sir Balin Swan and Jalabhar Zo. And so Anguy fucking shit up.
Yeah.
In the king's hands.
So much so that Ned offered him a job in his hands guard.
But the boy was flushed with wine in victory and spoils the like he had never had, and he refused, which, good on you.
Do what you gotta do.
Because he ends up in the Brotherhood anyway.
So then we get that Thoros of Myr won the melee.
Yeah, it went on for 3 hours. It was near 40 men. Free riders, hedge knights, new-made squires. They fought with blunted weapons in the chaos of mud and blood. There were alliances forming and breaking all over until only one man was left standing, the Red Priest, Thoros of Myr.
Thoros!
With his flaming sword and his shaved head.
So note that that's 2 of the hands tourney winners end up in the Brotherhood Without Banners.
Yeah. I also like that it was just mentioned that Thoros is pretty good in these melees.
Yes,
he's won a couple before
skilled
with his flaming sword.
And he was in the battle, the Greyjoy Rebellion, doing some cool shit. Like, he's skilled.
Killjoy Ned is just pleased that Robert didn't get to take place. So that's sweet. And then it says that night at the feast, Ned Stark was more hopeful than he had been in a long time. Robert was in good humor. The Lannisters were nowhere to be seen. And even his daughters were behaving.
Yeah, getting along. Arya joined them at the feast, joined Sansa, and
Sansa spoke to Arya pleasantly, telling her that the tournament was magnificent. You should have come. How was your dancing?
And Arya proudly displays a new bruise.
I'm sore all over. Look at this fucking bruise.
Look at the size of this thing. I got whacked hard as shit.
Sansa says, "You must be a terrible dancer." But later, while Sansa's off listening to a troupe of singers sing a ballad called "The Dance of Dragons," Ned inspects Arya's bruise for himself just to be a good dad and says, "I hope Pharrell isn't being too hard on you." And Arya is standing on one leg at this point because she's getting better at it. And she says that Syrio says that every hurt is a lesson, and every lesson makes you better. And Ned frowns. And he thinks that Syrio had come with an excellent reputation, and his flamboyant Braavosi style was well suited for Arya's slender blade. But still,
he's a little rough around.
This is a little bit much. And he says a few days ago, Arya was spotted wandering around with a swatch of black silk tied over her eyes. And when he asked her, she said that Syrio was teaching her to see with her eyes and nose and skin. And before that, he had her doing spins and backflips. And he asks her, "You certain you want to continue with this shit? You want to keep doing this?"
Yeah, which is like, shut the fuck up, Ned. Let her do her thing.
Well, she nods and says, "Tomorrow we're going to catch cats."
Cats.
Cats, kitty cats, which are super important for Arya.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, it's just Arya being Arya. I love any Arya and Ned scenes. I think they're great.
Yeah. So then it basically there kind of goes into another transition where he's putting the girls to bed and heading off to his own chambers where, speaking of cats, he's inspecting the cat's paw dagger. Do we know it's the cat's paw dagger technically at this point? Is it called? Have they referred to it as?
I don't fucking think it's called that really in the book, but it might be. I don't know, honestly.
Who knows?
It's too much. It's too much.
But yeah, so he's thinking about Gendry again and how he's aware now of the fact that Robert is the father, that Gendry is a bastard Baratheon. But, like, what does that matter? Who gives a shit? Because Robert already has other bastards. He's got the one that he's openly claimed down at Storm's End.
Edric Storm.
That is being fostered by Mr. Renly. And so, yeah, that's cool that we're getting some Edric Storm shouts already.
He also remembers Robert's first child, a daughter he had in the Vale. And Robert had doted on her, and he used to visit her long, and it says
that...
excuse me, he visited her long after he lost interest in the mother, which, again, Robert's a piece of shit. Like, he just uses these women for sex, and then...
And so Ned thinks that daughter is probably 17 or 18 by now.
Yeah, and we'll meet her very shortly as Catelyn is descending up the Eyrie.
Yeah.
It's Maya, I believe her name is. And it says, while Cersei probably wasn't pleased about Robert's bastards, it didn't really matter. Law and custom gives them very few rights. And so it's well known that Robert has all these bastards. Gendry, the girl in the Vale, the boy at Storm's End. None of them could threaten Robert's true-born children.
Because Ned still isn't...
He's not aware of the incest.
He's not getting it yet.
So his thoughts are interrupted by a knock on the door, and Harwin pops his head in. Yo, what up, Ned?
Hey, buddy.
Sorry to bother you, bud, but there's a man here to see you, and he won't tell us his name. And Ned's like, all right, send him in.
Whatever.
Do it.
That's a great idea, Ned. It's a great idea.
And it says that the visitor was a stout man in cracked, mud-caked boots and a heavy brown robe of the coarsest rough spun, his features hidden by a cowl. And so Ned asks, who are you? And he says, a friend. And in a low, strange voice, and he says that we must speak alone, Lord Stark. So it says here that this is the description. This is the reason that is given for why Ned just lets him in. Curiosity was stronger than caution. Ned tells Harwin to leave them. Bye. Get out.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to this stranger that we don't know.
Door closes, and Varys lowers the hood. Boom! Bam!
Bam.
What
hey,
else?
Surprise. Hey, it's me.
And,
Gotcha.
Ned literally is fucking falling back against the bookcase. Lord Varys? And Varys politely greets him. Hello. Good evening, Lord Stark. May I have a cup of wine? And so Ned is pouring some 2 cups of summer wine, and he's still dumbfounded.
He's mentioning how he smells like sweat now and mud.
I could have passed within a foot of you and never recognized you. And Varys kind of titters and says, that was my dearest hope. It would not do for people to know that we have spoken privately.
And then Ned mentions, well, how did you get past the other guards and into my, because there's so many guards. And, Varys is like, there's shortcuts. There's
I love the quote. Varys quotes, they just give me sustenance. The Red Keep has ways known only to ghosts and spiders. Which, as we know, when he helps Tyrion escape and kill Tywin, he's in the fucking walls, man.
And, Kevin Lannister.
He probably is it's the same tunnel, that's probably the same route he takes with Tyrion to get Tyrion out. They're in the hand of the king's chambers.
Exactly.
I love it so much. But he says that there are things you must know. You are the king's hand, and the king is a fool. Your friend, I know, but a fucking fool. And it's the most truth Ned has gotten at this point. Varys is about to put some shit down.
And so he says the Lannisters wanted him to fight in the tournament. How do you think, Cersei is aware that the one way to get Robert to fight in the tournament is by telling him that he can't fight in the tournament?
Yeah, today was basically a near miss. They had hoped to kill him during the melee. And Ned is shocked and asks who. And this is when Varys says, if I need to tell you that, then you're a bigger fool than Robert, and I am on the wrong side. Who do you think wants him killed? And then that's when they get into, Ned says, the Lannisters. And Ned kind of takes a couple steps back here and says, I won't believe it, even of Cersei. She asked him not to fight. And that's when Varys says she forbade him to fight. And that's the difference right there. How do you get Robert to do something? Tell him he absolutely cannot do it. And he's going to do it. So Ned is aware. Ned starts to feel sick because it's making sense.
Yeah, it's all clicking.
And he says, but even if he did fight, who would dare strike the king? And Varys shrugs. There were 40 riders in the melee. The Lannisters have many friends. Amidst the chaos and the blood, who could name it murder if his grace was struck and felled by some missing
as
blow?
we know through history, it happens.
Oh,
there
absolutely.
have been kings to die in tournaments. Look at Sir Dunk.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's not
There's a precedence for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it says, once done, no doubt the slayer would be grief-struck, yet no doubt the compassionate queen would take pity, lift him to his feet, and bless him with a kiss of forgiveness. Good King Joffrey would have no choice but to pardon him. And that's that. Like,
Varys has it laid out.
I mean, it's basically what happened to Ser Hugh.
Exactly.
And so Ned can feel his anger rising, and he's getting pissed at Varys, and he says, you knew of this plot, and yet you did nothing. And again, we get the fucking bomb-ass Varys quotes, I command whisperers, not warriors. And Ned says, well, you could have come to me sooner.
Yeah, and this is when Varys is like, yeah, I probably could have, but it wouldn't have done anything for us. Like, at that point, I needed to make sure that I could trust you.
Absolutely.
And Ned's like, excuse me?
Yeah.
I'm the most honorable, trustworthy person, and that's when Varys delivers another Varys line.
I love it because I feel like that Ned reaction, that's supposed to be our, like, you had to make sure you could trust Ned.
What?
Like, we love Ned type of thing.
Yeah.
But when you're rereading it, you're aware that Ned is a fool. Like, Ned and Robert are doing things on an old schooly level,
Exactly.
like, and the game has shifted, and so I just love it that Varys is
on that level.
Checking,
can you be
he's
trusted
vetting
with
Ned.
this?
He's making sure Ned is, gonna do what's good for the realm, and then we get his next great
which is
Varys quote.
again another big one that went through on the show.
Mm-hmm.
There's two types of people: those serving the realm and those serving themselves, and he needed to know which kind of those people Ned was. And
he says, I begin to comprehend why the queen fears you so much. And he smiles.
And so we didn't ever get that kind of stuff from Littlefinger. And I think it's really cool and interesting to hear, whether it be true or not. But I don't think Varys is lying here.
No, I don't
Cersei is worried about Ned.
Yeah.
She knows that he's intelligent and honorable enough to fuck everything up for her.
Yeah.
If he's able to put the pieces together.
Yeah, she absolutely knows that if Ned finds out the truth, he will take it to Robert because honor compels him to, and they're BFFs for life. They have bracelets.
They do, and anklets, but those get
and
lost
tattoos.
in time.
But Varys smiles, and for a moment, his private face and his public mask are one, which again I think is a true. Varys is slipping out of character and letting Ned see him. Like, this is,
I actually care about the realm.
Yeah.
Like, look and see.
And this is when Ned says to him, you are the one she ought to fear. And Varys says, I am what I am. The king makes use of me, but it shames him. Such a manly man has little love for sneaks and spies and eunuchs. And if a day should ever come that Cersei tells him, kill that man, ill and pain will snick my head off, and then who will mourn for Varys? North or south, they sing no songs for spiders. But you, Lord Stark, he would not kill you. And even for his queen, and there may lie our salvation. So Varys is laying it out for him. One, I love that north or south, they sing no songs for spiders.
Yes. But
that explains Varys' motives. That's why he's going to play it from the shadows. Because if Cersei knew he was here talking to Ned, that's it. He's done. His head's cut off, and who's going to stand in defense of him? So he's going to do it in his best interest. But then he's also saying, Robert's not going to let anything happen to you, though, publicly or otherwise. So,
which is such an accurate statement until the boar has
well,
its
yeah,
way
I mean, the
with
boar is
his
a
only defense
totally
system.
unexpected thing, I think, for Varys, for Ned. And so, yeah, it throws a monkey wrench in. That, and I think Ned's moving a bit slow, but because this is all a bit much for him. And He just wants to be home at Winterfell with the simplicity of the
he
North,
just wants to,
where the enemies were
he
winter
just wants to
and
get the fuck
wildlands.
out of here, yo. Like, this is bullshit.
So, yeah, he starts, surely Robert has other friends who could stand for him, his brothers.
And Varys just breaks down each and every one.
Yeah, his
you know,
wife.
Varys says, Jaime's a sworn sword of the King's Guard. We know what his oath is worth. We know what, his brothers have no love for him. His
brothers hate the Lannisters, but hating them and loving the king are different.
Yes.
Barristan Selmy loves his honor. Grand Maester Pycelle loves his office. And Littlefinger loves Littlefinger. And so Ned starts to mention the Kingsguard, and that's when Varys cuts him off and says, "A paper shield. Try not to look so shocked, Lord Stark. Jaime Lannister is a Kingsguard, and we all know what his oaths are worth."
Yeah, like it's
just the most true. And he says, "The days of Ryam red wine and Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight wearing the white cloak are gone to dust and song."
Yeah.
It's a new game. Like, this isn't days of old. This isn't the song. You are acting like Sansa, essentially. Of the current 7 Kingsguard, Selmy alone is made of true steel, but Selmy is old. Yeah. Selmy exists in that
same
way of thinking. Sir Boros and Meryn are queen's men to the bone, and I have my suspicions of the others. No, my lord, when steel is drawn, you alone will be the only true friend that our King Robert has.
Yes. And
Ned wants the king to be told.
Yeah, well, that's it.
If what you say is true, we need to take it to the king.
And once again, Varys is like, you can't do it. It's not how this works.
What proof shall we lie before him? My little birds against the queen and the kingslayer, against his brothers and his council. Send for Syl Ilyn, because I know where that road leads.
Yes.
Go get the headsman and cut my fucking head off now.
And this is really cool, because Varys at this point is like, so we don't say anything. We keep moving forward. We need to listen. But you need to remember to act like you still don't like me.
Yep.
Maintain that distaste. You do not want them to know that we've met and your attitude has changed about anything.
Yeah, Ned says that they're gonna bide their time and make another attempt, and Varys says they will, and soon. You make them anxious, Lord Stark, but I'll be listening, and together you and I might forestall them. And then he goes into, at the next council meeting, make sure to treat me with your usual disdain that you hate.
Yes.
They mustn't know we've spoken like this, so it shouldn't be hard for you because clearly you're uncomfortable with me being here now, giving you this information.
So he turns to leave, and Ned shoots him one last question.
Varys, how did Jon Arryn die?
And, like,
he gives the true answer.
That's what's so great, though, is that he has the answer. So readily available. And he even mentions that to Ned. He's, first he says it's tears of Lys. It's clear and sweet as water.
A rare and costly thing,
but costly. No trace. But then he says that he was surprised that it took him so long to ask him, to come to him and ask.
I also enjoyed, he said, I begged Lord John to use the taster. In this very room I begged him, but he would not hear it. And so Ned asks, who gave him this poison? Some dear sweet friend, no doubt, but which one? There was one boy who owed John everything. He must have been a gallant figure in the tourney, I'm sure. A pity he died before you could speak with him. And Ned asks, Ser Hugh? Why? Why now? John was handed for 14 years, so why kill him now? What was he doing that could end in his murder? And this is when we get the last line, but Varys is slipping out the door at this point, his cowl pulled back up, he's back in his mummer's disguise, and he gives a simple, asking questions. And chapter end. Curtain closed. Done.
The end.
Jon Arryn was asking questions, Ned. That's why he needed to be silenced.
Yes.
And that's where we leave Neddard 7.
Ned 7.
And it was a good one. It's a good one.
It's getting close to the end for Ned.
We're getting close to the end of Ned, excuse me. Again, I'm sorry. I was sicky for this one.
Yeah, I know.
Shut up. I was apologizing to them, not you. I don't care about you.
Do you have an inductee? Let me go first so that you don't take mine.
It's changed quite a few times.
Mine is Varys.
Yeah.
He's so cool. He just does such cool shit, and he has such fucking slick lines, and when we watched Lost, we started doing the lock bomb thing every time John Locke would fucking, and so I got to think of something for Varys. Every time Varys lays down a fact that it's just
Yeah.
Something.
Like a spider
Right.
truth.
You guys write into us. Give us some kind of
give
nice
us something.
phrase.
What is it when Varys, like, is he dropping spider bombs?
Like, we've got the little finger slam now.
Little finger slam. Varys truths. Gonna hit you with a Varys truth.
See, it's too basic.
Yeah, it's too mouthy.
So we got to get
wordy.
something good there. So let us know there. But
My
yeah,
inductee,
so Varys is my inductee.
I think I had two. So I'll give it to the one that is. It was between the Hound and Renly. So I'll give it to Renly because I don't think I'll ever give it to Renly again. But just for his
little
crowd banter and sort of confirming the fact that Littlefinger's lying. Like Renly kind of blew up Littlefinger's spot without even realizing it. Like,
so I've started thinking that this book as a whole, we read the prologue. It's the first thing we start with. This prologue.
Obviously.
I'm starting to think more and more that Game of Thrones, the book,
is a prologue.
Is the prologue to A Song of Ice and Fire, where we're going through this and we're built to believe, or the first time listeners, you're built to believe Ned is going to be this main character that he's leading to be the hero of the adventure, and then we've got our limited time with him. Mm-hmm. When really that's the prologue. We're giving our heroes the motivation they need, the Arya, the Jon, all these other characters that are made to be the heroes. And so it's super cool to have so much context about the Littlefinger shit just from this small little
I really enjoy it because I've always thought of it as Martin, like he's phenomenal in everything he does. Obviously I love him, but what he does with this book is he fucks with our perception of time a little bit, where we're introduced to the story before the main character's parents are dead and mentor is dead, because especially with Jon Snow, like Jon Snow's parentage aside, we'll just set him off. Ned Stark is the parental figure. Catelyn Stark is the parental figure.
Put this
and in this book, they're presented as the protagonists, but they're really not. Arya, Bran, Sansa, Jon, Robb,
Dany.
Yeah, those are the protagonists. Tyrion.
Yeah.
It's
if you look at it, Jon Snow is Simba. Ned Stark is Mufasa.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot longer for us to get, or we think, to get to that point where Mufasa gets thrown off the cliff by Scar.
But it really, that's it. This is more about their children and their hero's journey. So Ned really is just a call to action.
He's
for
just exactly
Arya and
he's
Sansa.
A chess piece. He's a pawn to play to get things.
The
set
motivator,
up.
the sort of leaving, the reason to leave home and the reason to go out on this quest is something that they're so used to and comfortable with. And that's why it's so shocking, is because we're set up as like Ned Stark is going to fix the realm by, book 3, maybe he'll be on the Iron Throne and things will be cool. He'll have a sweet hand. Like maybe Tyrion will be Ned Stark's hand.
There have been some attempts on his life, but he's kept the peace. He's got this rebuilding.
It was never Ned Stark's story. No. Ned Stark's story was Robert's Rebellion, was Jon Snow, was...
he was the Ser Davos of fucking Robert's Rebellion.
Yeah.
He was just that extra guy that's there to help. And
I don't know why like that just came up like now, but like I just really enjoyed this chapter. This chapter felt the most fantasy to me as well, besides the prologue.
Yeah,
because it's just this great big Varys, but it's this great big tournament. And there's jousting, and then we get a fucking horse getting its head cut off, and a sweet fight between these two brothers, one of whom's burned face is scarred, and he was laughing at him.
You mentioned it, like the King's Pavilion just has that castle
on the river,
with the
shrouded in mist.
And so I thought that the mist, real quick, it was something I wanted to bring up because I thought it was cool. The gray mist swirling around right before we had gotten the description of the Silent Sisters and their great veils, almost like death is hovering over
around
his pavilion.
The tournament,
like it's in the air.
Yeah, it definitely is, according to what Varys had to say.
But so that's what we've got.
Those are our thoughts
on this one. Our next chapter will be Tyrion number 4. Tyrion 4, which is chapter 31, guys.
Which is going to be, he's been taken by Catelyn, and we're going to deal with that.
Yeah, so this is a really fun chapter. We're going to meet Bronn. We're going to...
I loved it. I'd love to have notes for it. So, yeah, we'll get that one to you. Let us know your thoughts. Send us in your inductees for either Tyrion or any of the other ones for the remainder of Game of Thrones.
You can get us at our email. It's withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/brotherhoodpodcast. Twitter is where I'm active mostly, at Manners Without. We're on Instagram at Brotherhood Without.
Yep.
And then we have our, website.
Our Patreon as well.
Oh, and our Patreon, patreon.com/withoutmanners, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's where our Mercy chapter is. You can get all these regular chapters usually are on there as well.
Find us on iTunes. Any rate and review.
Well, so no. At this point, iTunes is no more. It's now called Apple Podcasts or Apple Music. They're completely taking it down, iTunes. So if you are an iTunes user, that's not a bad thing necessarily. You can still get us on Apple devices.
Wow.
Just use the app. It's just kind of a big news thing. So leave us like and reviews and the subscribes on Apple Podcasts, which is the same thing as iTunes, just they're rebranding because they're shutting down iTunes.
This is why I'm not in charge of socials.
Yeah, that's true. You're dumb. But we're also able to be listened to at all the other places as well. Spreaker, Breaker, Castbox, fucking Google Podcasts. I think we're on Alexa. Alexa, play Brotherhood Without Manners. I'm pretty sure that works, so give it a try if you're that guy. We obviously don't have an Alexa, or else it would. Stop staring at me like this.
You're
freaking
fucking
me out,
rude.
Man. Why? Because
you said I'm dumb.
You are dumb.
You're fucking rude.
Oh my god.
We will catch you guys on the next one.
Vale de Harris.
Peace.